Heather, welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody.
How's everything here out there? You're all good?
There we go.
Well, Heather, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Carolina Beer Fest.
Thank you. Great to be here.
What I thought we'd do, I have a few questions for you, and then we can open it up to
All right.
a few people.
I'm ready.
All right. Well, I had a question. Can you take us back to your initial reaction when you first read the script for What was that?
I always tell people that at the time I was trying to audition for like John Hughes movies, you know, 16 Candles and all the teenager movies back then, and I really thought it was going to be, you know, it had some similarities to those kinds of movies because the teenagers were, you know, so realistic and their problems seemed so realistic, and then there were just little aspects that had to do with this guy in our dreams, but it didn't. I was thinking that that was just going to be a real minor part of the storyline, because Freddie's not really in the show that much, and when you read the script, he's not in it hardly at all, so I just really thought it was going to be like a teen flick. But then when I got to the set and started working with Wes Craven and I really started to understand what a horror movie was going to be like, then I'm like, oh, okay, this is not going to be quite like a teen, you know, John Hughes movie, so it didn't turn out that way.
Well, when stepping into a role like that, and you know, having that mindset of getting something like this, which is very different, this is such a different movie for the time, how do you prepare for something like that, like Nancy?
Well, I knew that Wes Craven liked me, like when we met this Heather Langenkamp, and I think I knew that he wanted me to be as natural as I could, as, you know, as close to myself as possible, very similar to those experience that, you know, I had had as a teenager, pretty wholesome upbringing and very innocent, but yet kind of strong, and but not so innocent. I mean, she's tough, and she's, you know, she's had her own share of problems in the world. So I went to work every day just trying to be as authentic, and I wasn't probably that great an actor that I would have taken a lot of chances to be a lot different than I was. I didn't give her any special quirks or anything like that. I was having a hard enough time just getting my lines memorized and all of that, so I just was very basic. I just made it very, very basic.
Well, it's that point. Also, I loved you on the Midnight Club. I thought it was such a fantastic show.
Like, thank you. I'm really proud of that show.
You guys did great. I would love to see more. Hopefully,
I know,
you know,
me too.
Make more. Like, come on.
Yeah, let's hope. I mean, I haven't lost hope, but it's been now 2.5 years since we wrapped that show, and I'm thinking it's probably not going to happen. That season 2 won't happen.
Fantastic story, though. If you haven't had a chance to check it out.
Yeah, The Midnight Club is still on Netflix, so if you like Mike Flanagan, it's definitely a show you might enjoy.
And to your point of being so young when you were playing Nancy, and then in the Midnight Club, working with a lot of teen actors, what was some advice getting ready for that for them?
Well, you know, gosh, those I mean, some of them were teenagers, some of them were adults, but they had to play kids with cancer, and they really threw their heart into learning about the illnesses that they had and the treatments that they had already gone through, maybe some of the symptoms they would have been experiencing with every kid in the hospice that I play the owner and the doctor of a hospice. They really spent a lot of time learning about that, and so the mood was a little bit more somber when we were creating the scenes for that show. But then we had this chance when they all meet at midnight to tell these scary stories, and so that's where the show got to be really fun and more fanciful and more scary, and lots of, you know, we got to play different characters. I get to play the devil, and I play a detective from Boston. I play all these different kind of characters.
So for that, playing so many characters in that role, and a lot of the fantasy stories that played into that, which I thought was really fantastic. Like, for you, what was that like? Really, was it so playful to get into?
Yeah, we always were looking forward to doing the Midnight Club story. So if anybody's not familiar with the Midnight Club, was a series of books written by Christopher Pike in 1993, I think. He wrote 34 different stories, and Mike Flanagan optioned most all of them. And his intention was to make each one, or combine a couple and make all of them. So we only got around to doing, I think, 7 of them or 6 of them. But the stories are about these kids who live in a hospice. They all have cancer, and then at midnight they get together and tell scary stories. So that's the premise. So I think there were so many other stories that we didn't get to tell. But whenever we knew we were going to do one of the stories, like, we were really, really excited. So we would work with our costumers and our hair people to create these new characters, and the stories were always, they were more like little horror movies, each one.
Yeah, so many different styles.
Every episode has like a little different horror movie in it.
Yeah, and it's fantastic. You guys need to check this out. And with that, you mentioned costume, makeup, and such. You've worked in special effects, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit, especially from our background. Now, so you're one of the best special effects of all time. Well, having worked with you, what are those experiences compare with that?
So I happened to marry a man whose father was a special effects makeup artist named Lance Anderson, and he did The Crow, he did Captain EO, he did a lot of Serpent in the Rainbow, lots of Wes Craven movies, Shocker. And so when I met David, his son, David had reluctantly decided to go into special effects makeup. He didn't originally want to because his dad was already doing that, and kids, they don't want to do what their parents do. So he was resisting it for a long time, but then his dad asked him if he wanted to go to Haiti to do Serpent in the Rainbow. And back then, you made a lot more money actually as a makeup effects artist than you do now, because it was such a unique profession, and so few people were involved that, comparatively speaking, the wages were really high back then for makeup effects artists. So my husband was very attracted to that. So he went to Haiti for his dad because his dad didn't really want to go, and he did Serpent in the Rainbow with Wes Craven. And so that's how I met him, at a wrap party for Serpent in the Rainbow. And we started dating and got married, and then we had kids. And at just about that time that we had kids, I did Wes Craven's New Nightmare. My little boy was 3 years old at the time. And then after that, I just really didn't get any work. I mean, it was really hard to get a job in Hollywood at that time for me. So I just said to my husband, look, maybe I should work for you. I don't really want to stay home all day. And my kids were in school and starting school, and so he's like, okay, I'm due to go to Canada to do this movie Dawn of the Dead. If you want to work, you can do all the office work, and you can do all the budgeting, and you can meet with the producers and take care of all of that side of the business, and then I'll just take care of the designing and making all the zombies. So I thought, yeah, that sounds like a great way to get up to Canada, and both of us have jobs. And so that relationship that we started up in Canada there has now kind of persisted till today. And so I still do that. I still make the budget. I still make sure we have all the supplies, and he's the designer and he makes all the makeup. So it's really worked out. And a lot of businesses are like that. Like, you just do whatever you're good at.
You worked on some of my favorites, Cinderella Man. Check that out.
Yeah, so first we did Dawn of the Dead up in Canada when I was involved, and then we did Cinderella Man maybe a year or two later, and then we did Star Trek Into Darkness, we did Cabin in the Woods, we've done 6 seasons of American Horror Story. Lately we just did a movie called Your Monster that's coming out this year. That's going to be a really fun, kind of romantic monster movie. And Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities we did a year ago. So we always have really interesting jobs, and I just kind of, I just do whatever it takes. I don't get my hands on brushes or anything like that. I don't make any decisions. In fact, my husband bans me from saying anything. He's like, I don't care what your opinion is. I'm like, okay, honey, I get it.
As horror fans, I think we can all agree respect for practical effects, right?
Yeah, practical. You just saw that great demonstration. It's really, really hard work, and even though I've seen a lot of makeup effects in my career, I'm always amazed at what they come up with in their imagination. I don't have that. I don't see monsters in my head. I don't, like, I can't dream of how they're gonna, like, get certain shots made. Like, if anyone saw Cabin in the Woods, there's this scene where the unicorn stabs the guy in the chest against the wall, and I was like, how are we gonna do that shot? Oh my gosh, it's so complicated. And what they ended up doing is they had a wall, and the guy's standing behind the wall, and he sticks his head through a hole, and then they had a fake body on the front of the wall, and they just had the unicorn. We mounted him on like the unicorn head. We mounted on a big kind of a wheeled device, and they just kept ramming it, because you don't have a real horse, you don't have any of those things. So, but it was a really complicated thing. But my husband was like, "Oh, that's easy. I just do it that way." And they know how to do it.
I didn't realize it's a horror convention, but I'm a big Trekkie.
Oh yeah.
And you were in Star Trek.
Yeah, that's right.
And I just found that out when I was doing my research.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
I would love to hear what this experience.
Well, it's everyone's dream to be in a Star Trek movie, right? So we were doing Star Trek Into Darkness and making a lot of, Spock ears and lots of some aliens. And they didn't have the budget to make as many aliens as they wanted. And so we had made an alien for another movie that never got made. And I had actually done the test makeup for the alien. So we made this test makeup for this alien, and we just had it sitting on the shelf. And so J.J. Abrams was like, "Do you guys have any other random makeups like that we could use in this scene?" And Dave was like, "Well, we have Heather as a watermelon head alien." And so they said, "Great, well, can we use it?" So we used that, and I got to be on the Star Trek set for a couple of days. It was really actually very fun. But I didn't have a real part. I was kind of sitting at a desk. But I got to wear the cool uniform, right?
I loved it, yeah.
I wish I could have taken it home. That was great, yeah.
I have to say, so I was a big fan growing up. I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember Just Times.
Yes.
That show growing up.
I love that show.
You were one of my favorite characters. Your little brother, and it's coming around to her, don't worry.
Yeah.
Your little brother is Matt Shackman.
Yeah, Matt Shackman, yeah.
And I wanted to ask, working with my friend, what are some some of horror directors or other filmmakers that you really respect and maybe want to work with?
Well, I'd love to work with Guillermo del Toro, that's for sure. And Matt Shackman directed Game of Thrones, and he's done so many. WandaVision. I'd love to work for him. He also, well, I don't know if he is now, but he was the artistic director for the Geffen Theater in LA, so he also does like live theater. So yeah, Matt Shackman is really top director in Hollywood right now. So I'd love to work for him. But James Wan, I think I would like to work with a lot of these horror directors. Sometimes I feel like since I'm so well known for all the Freddy movies and Wes Craven movies, that a lot of these directors don't want to work with me because they already think that I have this other reputation, and they don't want to have to kind of battle that as they create their new characters. So I've actually never really been asked to do any other horror franchise, or I don't even really get called in for them. So
Make this go viral. Get out there and all the horror. Come on.
well, it would be. Yeah, it's a big industry, so yeah, we'll see.
So much fun. I wanted to ask too, as we're going on, when you are with Nancy, so Nancy received a lot of recognition for her character. What do you think Nancy would do now? If she could?
So I've always been so grateful that I got to play a character who was a teenager, who was a woman in her 20s, and then a mother in her 30s. So if I had to think about what Nancy was doing now, or Heather, I really feel that she would be a woman who's probably taking care of her elderly parents, maybe, or she's empty nester whose kid's off on his own, getting into trouble, or not getting into trouble. That's not fair to Vico, right? I think I'd be probably a woman just like myself, who has 2 dogs and I have a pretty normal life. life in the, outside of the convention center. But I think Nancy would be a very normal woman, and she would, somehow have Freddie haunting her dreams. I often think that, like, maybe Robert Englund is at the, retirement village, and he's being pestered by Freddie dreams, and I come to visit him because I would go visit Robert if he was in the retirement home, and get worried about that. And then he drags me into his dreams somehow, and then we battle Freddie together. I don't know if Robert would want to be in the retirement village yet. I don't think so.
He'd come right out to fight. I tend to ask this for everybody, especially in the art. If you could go back and play any classic horror film character, who would it be and why?
I mean, the only one I would pick is Nancy. I really, really was born to play that role, and there's no other role that I've ever wanted to play.
Awesome, fantastic. Well, I want to open it up to everyone. We're going to take some questions. You can come up to the mic and ask if you'd like. Not to have some more, but please feel free if you want to come up and ask.
Oh wait, there's one character I would have played.
Okay, let's hear it.
Dorothy in A Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. That's a great choice. That's such a fantastic film. Transcendence time. That's amazing. Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Do I take this off?
No, just you can talk.
Okay, gotcha. Hey, so my name is Sheldon, and I've always really enjoyed you in the Nightmare on Elm Street films, 1 and 3, and New Nightmare. I always ask, like you said, he always has a certain question you ask people. I know, like, Robert Englund and, like, Freddy Krueger, like, you're, like, horror icon and whatnot, but do you have, like, another, like, horror icon that you're a fan of, like maybe Pinhead or Michael Myers or Leatherface?
Thank you.
Why would I like any of those guys? Okay. I think Pinhead is kind of the most interesting to me. I think that I like the fantasy aspects of Hellraiser, and it kind of took you to another world, and I really appreciate that about it. And that's why I like Freddy too. It's like there's something supernatural about him and his power. I gravitate towards those kinds of horror movies more, I think, because I don't really want to think that our world is filled with Mike Myers, even though I know that happens out there. They're too real. They're like too close to being reality for me.
Okay. Listen, I think it's time that Nancy takes on Art the Clown.
Oh, of course, Art the Clown. We'd have an epic battle. He'd win.
No way. Let's fall into those traps.
Battle.
Listen.
Hi, my name is Taylor, and what was it, after you got done with Nightmare on Elm Street, did you know it was going to be as big as it was going to be, like, after you got done filming? Like, wow, this is going to be huge. Or was it like, I don't really know. And I know we hear a lot about Robert Englund, but what was Wes Craven like behind the scenes as a director?
Well, when the movie we were making it, I think we all thought it would just be a very small, independent film, and we would be lucky if it would, get shown, because a lot of movies got made that didn't end up making it to the big screen. But, to Bob Shaye's credit, who was our producer, he somehow got that film released, and it did really, really well for the few, probably ran for a month or two maybe, and then there was no way to see that movie because VCRs hadn't been invented yet, so it was very, very quiet. It just came and went, and the people that saw it in the theater were the luckiest people, I think, because they got to actually see a real movie in the real theater with their friends. And so then after Nightmare 2 came out, the VCR was invented, and then suddenly they had these, like, let Freddy come into your house, this weekend, and they had all these commercials that really heavily push people to rent that movie at Blockbuster or whatever video store they had in their neighborhood. And that's when it started to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then after Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, it got really big, and that was a good 3 or 4 years later. So it was a very slow burn. And then it was a pretty slow burn, and then I think after you know, Wes Craven's New Nightmare was not a hit. I mean, very few people saw that, so it kind of went back to just being a slow burn, and then it just seems like in the last 10 years it's gotten really, really popular. Like, I think just so many people have seen it, like just millions and millions of people have seen it now that it can't help but be such an important film. And then, you know, the Library of Congress said it was a classic, so that helps, that kind of stuff. But I never thought it was going to be a big movie. I never thought it was going to go anywhere. And frankly, almost everybody in my life at that time told me not to do Nightmare on Elm Street, that it would ruin my career. So, you know, being in a horror movie was very, there was just a lot of stigma attached to it. There was a lot of moral judgment about horror movies back then. And most of the people that were decision makers in my career were just like, it's a really bad idea, Heather, don't do it.
Yes.
Hey.
Hi, Heather. One question I wanted to ask you specifically, because I know you were in Nightmares 1, 3, and New Nightmare. What was the most difficult or most challenging scene you had to film, or like just film in general? Because I know the original was filled with a lot of like little over-the-top effects in there, and a lot of set pieces, especially with Johnny Depp getting sucked in the bed. But what would you say was the most challenging, or like the most?
Well, I know, yeah, for me, I know like Amanda would say that her death scene was just really challenging. It was really tough. So, but I didn't have to do that scene, so I just got to watch. And I'd have to say in New Nightmare, when I'm in that, I fall into that pool of water, and then I'm going through Freddy's dungeon, and we're fighting. That was really challenging. Those were scenes that were very hard, and, you know, just like picking up the eel and shoving it in his eye and things like that. Like, there was a lot of technical fighting that we had to do.
Right.
But those were some of my favorite scenes. Running, you know, with the fire, like, it was just a really hard set to work on. But then the bathtub scene, I think, might be the, you know, that one was not physically difficult, but it was just like I was in a bathtub all day long, and that was kind of weird.